What's up, everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk. Tonight, me and Bill tonight. Rick is in Germany, and apparently it's 1 o'clock there, so he is still sleeping after being over there doing some stuff for Letnik. So we're gonna continue with this. Try to keep this going every Friday. Even with Rick being gone, we want him to hope he's having fun over in Germany while we're over here and back in the States. Bill's going to jump on here in a minute. Our topic today that we've been discussing, and it's come up several times in some of our other lives that we've had, is leadership without rank. What is leadership? Does it actually involve having rank? And really, leadership is more of a behavior rather than a title. How can you lead people up? Every day you go to work, the people you're around you, and change that culture as an individual that doesn't have the sleeves on his shirt with him. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. And well, let's see, we can get him on. There he comes. What's up, Bill?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. All right, just kind of do a little intro, let everybody know that Rick's not going to be here, but we're still doing this. Still going to keep pushing this thing and keep getting people excited about Letneck and about this Let's Talk stuff. So
Yeah, this will be good. I know Rick was having, travel issues, and it's already frustrating enough in another country, let alone trying to coordinate a time. So
yeah,
he'll be on the next one. But yeah, we're not going to drop our packs just because, we can't have our buddy here. But like, we'll catch up. Hopefully we do him proud.
hopefully, we can keep it rolling. He's usually the
Yeah.
one that has lots to say. So, and he's more eloquent in speaking than we are a lot of times, and he uses big words. So we're probably not going to have a whole lot of big words tonight. Still should be pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. We definitely don't have big words. And if I use them, they're definitely wrong. So
I'm right there with you. Uh,
my
cool.
kid put all her stickers on my water bottle, so
Oh, nice and
that's all right.
pink.
Yeah, but
Cool.
yeah. I know we talked earlier, so like for the people that are watching, we're talking about like how do you lead without rank, right? That was the title of the discussion. Did I get that right?
Yep.
So one thing that I was just doing that I found interesting is, I just been looking up briefly what is leadership, right? So I know I'll give you a piece from what I've learned, and then I'm sure you could share, and then I'll go into what I found. But I was always, in law enforcement anyway. It has been my experience that 90% of people in law enforcement believe that leadership is a rank or a position, and they think that once you get the stripes or you get the collar device, now you're a leader. And I think, especially talking between you and my experiences, your experiences, I completely disagree with that. Um, I think is an action in a verb and not a position or a title. So I'm sure you have something on that before we dive into it. But what's been your experience?
Yeah, I look back at my career. I look back at my life. I look back at playing sports, and the people that I wanted to follow most weren't always the ones that were in the leadership positions, the so-called leadership positions, the one that had tested to get to a higher level, maybe a higher pay scale. It was the ones that were actually doing the work every day, the ones that had the experience and the ones that were pushing to get themselves better that I wanted to emulate. And those are the ones that I wanted to follow. And those are the ones that I wanted to become like. So I think leadership is definitely more than just a title and its actions. It's the ability to have integrity and do what you're going to say you're going to do
Mm,
and bring people with you as as a good leader does. A lot of the people that were some of my mentors growing up and on the team and were the ones that just showed up to work every day, worked hard and didn't have an ego and just wanted to bring everybody else up with them and not wanted to overstep and prove that they were a leader. They just did it.
yeah, and the same thing with me. Like especially early on, the people that I gravitated to, just because like we have a similar personality, but the people that I gravitated to that I'm like I want to be like that guy, was the guy just doing the job, and sometimes it wasn't even a guy who was a boss at all. It's just another peer. And you're like, dude, I'm gonna follow that guy. Wherever he goes, like I'm going with him. And sometimes people are in that position, like the guy that I'm talking about, probably never even knew that other people were like looking up to him. He was
Hmm.
just he's like, yeah, this is what I do. Um, because I think a lot of times people aren't, they might not even know, they might not even realize it. But
And those are usually the
um,
best ones to follow.
yeah, yeah, it's like the whole George Washington thing. Like, yeah, dude, you're our president because you have to, not because you want to.
Yeah, because we trust you.
Yeah, that's it right there. And segueing from that, so I have two different type of ways to start with this. And the first thing I did was just was like, hey, well, let's define leadership, right? So that for people watching and anybody that decides to watch after the fact, like what does that mean so that we're all on the same page? And so I pulled up two different organizations, two different definitions, and it's interesting to see the contrast of them. So one of them is through a organization dealing with training for like corporate America and business and stuff like that. And their definition of leadership is the ability of an individual to manage and supervise an organization and to positively influence others to perform their jobs to the best of their ability, resulting in business success. And that is like a nice political mumbo jumbo thing for saying like, just do as I say.
Hmm.
That like at first face value, that's what I see. What do you think of that?
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's just pretty basic stuff, but yeah, do what I say. So I'm the leader.
And one thing I just literally just realized was this definition has uh, no directive to the individual in that position, meaning like the leader it is defining. Like it does not give you a task. It just says positively influence others to perform their jobs the best of their ability, resulting in business success. Like so, the only thing it talks about that individual having to do is manage and supervise and positively influence.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
think it's lacking.
I think it's lacking too, but I think that is a good definition of a leader with rank
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
influencing your guys to hey, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do your job the best that you can, and I'm going to step out of the way.
Yeah.
And leaders with rank, the best ones that I ever had, did that. They were like, hey, I trust you, I empower you, go do it. So I think that is a good definition for a leader that has the stripes to
Mhm.
empower his guys to go do stuff. But at the same time, you don't have to have that rank in order to positively influence people to do better at their job every day.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think you could take that definition of leadership and swap it with a job description, and it could be the same thing,
Yeah.
right? So then I also looked up, being biased from the Marine Corps, but the definition of leadership through the Marine Corps, and there's manuals and a bunch of different stuff on it. Like all this stuff is good, but this one is awesome. I actually really like this one, and it said leadership is the sum of qualities of intellect, human understanding, and moral character that enable a person to inspire and to control a group of people successfully. And the one thing that I really like about that one is it doesn't talk about like job description. It talks about the qualities of the person that is leading and that they need to inspire others to do the things that they're doing. And
Yeah.
to me, that speaks to a lot of the experiences I've had, same as you. Like you look up to that senior guy and he doesn't wear the rank, but by him doing those things and fostering a relationship with the young guys, you now want to follow him without him ever having to say, "Hey, come follow me." Like that
Mhm.
natural reaction to just follow the dude who's squared away and not look back is rare. But there's a lot of guys out there like that. And yeah, what are your thoughts with that?
Just with that, like the moral fortitude to do what is right.
Yeah,
You have the guys that, they're lazy, they don't want to do anything. Those aren't the ones I'm going to follow. The ones that are actually working every day. And here's another big thing about it too, having the moral fortitude to, as a leader, when times are tough, to say like, "Hey, dudes, we got this. Let's just keep rolling.
yeah,
I don't care what anybody else says. Yes, they are making us do this. Our command staff's telling us, hey, we have to do this. Yeah, that sucks, but let's make the best of it. And then by that." now taking guys with you and saying, hey, we're going to make the best of it. We're going to do the best that we can in this situation, no matter what it is. And those are the guys that gather people together and keep pushing forward.
What would you say? I mean, because you have a lot of experience, even in the obviously in the SWAT community, where and then obviously your time on the road and stuff. But what are some of the ways that you think either like someone who is not in a leadership position, what are some of the things that they can do or that you've seen happen to where they can influence others and inspire others without having that device on their collar?
So I did a story thing the other day or yesterday and asked questions. And one of the questions or and one of the responses was leading by example, but then I'm trying to think of what it was. They just show up and do the job. And I think the ones that set the standard for themselves and hold themselves to a high standard, they're the ones training all the time. They're the ones that are in physical shape. They're the ones that are constantly not just sitting in a parking lot late at night. They're out trying to hunt down people, trying to find bad guys. Those are the ones that good young officers want to be like and follow. And so if you are that guy, the one that's always working no matter what, the one that's always setting themselves a high standard, they're going to start raising that standard and start bringing people up with them. The ones that, hey, are pushing people to get better, not just themselves, but by pushing themselves, people see that and then they bring other people up with them.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. It reminds me of a guy I worked with at my last agency. He was like, I don't know, maybe a year out from retirement. He's ready. He's done his time. He's a senior,
Mhm.
sergeant on the road. But the dude is always getting after it. And he wasn't like the fittest guy. Um, Everyone has like their niche and things, I feel like. And he wasn't CrossFit strongman dude. He was, a little heavy. But dude, every day calling out, foot pursuit. Hey, can I get a, I would say the most admirable thing about him, why guys liked him was you hear the boss come on the radio asking for another unit and you get there and he's like, I saw this hand to hand over here. Let's come up. He comes up with a plan on how we're going to get this dude and then go get the dealer and, doing a bunch of fun cop stuff as opposed to the other way around, where you're a new guy and yeah, it's good to go do that and try stuff out. But if you got a boss who's like that and he's doing the thing and he's asking the young guys for help, those young guys are going to look at that guy and be like, dude, this guy is, because he's doing the job. He's doing it and no one's telling him to do it. And he's not sitting over there being like, hey, you go do that and then sit back in the office and not do anything. So like when that guy was calling out a foot pursuit, one, it was good. And two, you were like, all right, it's time to get down. And guys would go like people would be fighting to go help him out. And I always remember that as like a really admirable trait. When he had 6 months left, he doesn't have to be, chasing after, dealers and trying to get dope off guys. Like he doesn't have to do that. And he did.
He'd be sitting back doing nothing because he's just
Yeah.
coasting for his last little bit, and but he's still out working his butt off, and yeah, and those are the guys that I looked up to as a young cop. I remember there was a few guys that were when I first got on the SWAT team that were that way. They were towards the end of their career, getting to retire, getting ready to lead the team or whatever, and they were still busting their butt every day in training. They were the ones pushing everybody to get better. They weren't just slacking off in training. They were the ones that were actually out there pushing us and pushing themselves over and over and over again and critiquing and getting the reps and teaching from their experience on teaching us how to be better
Mhm.
cops, how to be better SWAT guys. I think that's a big part of it too, is is the people that are good teachers and are willing to take the time to take the new guy, let them make the mistakes, but then also critique them and say, hey, here's how you get a little bit better. Here's how you can gain that experience on your own and also be willing to let them fail a little bit so they can say, hey, this is your mistakes you made, and now let's fix it.
Yeah, especially if we're gonna classify, which I think we both agree that leadership is an action. It's a thing that you do, and we're gonna say that one of the traits in and of that definition is inspiring others. I
Mhm.
think the most one of the most effective and one of the best ways to influence others is to teach them because you're giving them information, and if you're doing it right, you're ensuring that they retain it, and you're correcting mistakes, and you're getting feedback and you're refining these people, which is a really good way to inspire them to either continue on that skill or progress through that skill into the next thing. So do you think that, with that said, do you think that that somebody can be a leader without being a teacher and we'll say like in the realm of like law enforcement type stuff? We'll keep it centric around that.
I don't. I think if you're a leader, I think you're naturally a teacher. I think they go hand in hand. You have to be able to, if you are going to lead people to follow you, you have to be able to teach them how to do that, how to
Hmm.
grow. You can either be the guys that, hey, I'm going to do this all and not going to teach anybody, because I've had those guys that had the experience, that had the following, that had done a lot of stuff, but they never taught me anything. I think
Hmm.
back to one of our team leaders, and I had this conversation years ago with some of the guys on our team. He was actually on the SWAT team with my dad way back in the day. So when
Damn.
I got on the team, he was still on the team. Tons of experience, but never once did he actually sit down and try to teach me how to be better. He had all the experience and he kept it to himself. Where then we had other leaders on the team, other guys that weren't of rank, that maybe had a few years less experience, but they were willing to take me under their arm and say, hey, this is how we do this. This is how you get a little bit better, and let me experiment and let me try things so that I gain that experience instead of the other guy that just did whatever he wanted and didn't really bring people with him.
Yeah, I think because I know I probably met more. I'm sure you're the same. I probably met more people that had experience and did not exhibit those leadership qualities or didn't teach. I'll argue to say the main reason would be it's work, and it's
Mhm.
not work that is required of you. So anytime cops are famous for doing as just enough to get my paycheck and not more than that, or not lose my position. And if you're really going to be teaching people and doing things like that, that is a endeavor that you're taking on that no one's telling you to do and that no one expects you to do unless you're like an FTO, that you have to do under your own fruition. And that could be a choice that doesn't even enter people's minds when they're like, "Hey, dude, I'm out of here at 3." And this mentorship or this leadership might be like in a longer than a 3 o'clock thing, and I think it's a lot of work that folks don't want to take on.
Yeah, and when you start to think about how this whole thing, this Let's Talk thing started, how do we build instructors?
Yeah.
And in order to be a good instructor, you have to be a leader. You have to be willing to put in those extra hours. You have to be able to say, hey, I'm going to stay a little bit late with you and teach you what I know. Let me teach you from my mistakes so that you don't make the same ones, instead of just saying, screw you, you go do your own thing. I think you have to have that leadership mentality, or you have to have that teacher mentality in order to be a leader. And every good leader that I know had that. And every good leader had a leader that took them underneath their wing and did the same exact thing as them. And like when I
Y-
teach my courses and stuff too, I tell people, hey, I'm teaching you from my mistakes so that you can get better. And I think that's a big part of it, is be willing to admit that you screwed up and then teach people, hey, how can I not, how can I teach you not to make the same mistakes that I did?
yeah, and with that too, one of the sayings that would always get floated around is leaders need to inspect what they expect, right? So if you're an unofficial leader, right, and you're teaching, and if you're teaching someone, it's inevitable that at some point the person you're teaching is going to make a mistake.
Mhm.
And there's two ways to go about it. You can ignore it and keep going, or you can address it and refine it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think if you're a leader, I would argue with anybody that says that a leader does not need to be a teacher, because case in point is right here. If you're inspecting what you're expecting to ensure that the standards are being upheld, whether you're unofficial leader running the range for the day, or you're a lead breacher, or you're a detective, right? You need to inspect to make sure things are getting done right with the people that you're teaching. If you don't do that and you don't correct mistakes, or ensure that you teach them why it's a mistake and like why this isn't good, that action in and of itself is teaching, right? If you make a mistake, like you're like, hey Bill, go make this charge, and I make it and it's wrong, and I bring it to you, and you're like, yeah, that's fine, like that's a problem, right? So you would be like,
Yeah.
no, hey, let's go back and let's see what you did wrong and let's fix this, and then I
Or
learn. Yep.
Well, along with that, saying, I can't believe you screwed this up, and then just take it from them, and then you go rebuild it and not actually teach them how to do it.
Yep. And it's like Jamie keeps yelling at me for charges. I don't know what he wants.
Yeah.
Like that corrective action is teaching. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think, and one agency that I was at, like we had a couple of folks that were in leadership spots that had never taught anything. And I think the thing that shines through with that is when circumstances become unorthodox, unusual, or tense, rapidly evolving, the ability to make decisions on what to do becomes difficult because you don't even really know what your people know. And you don't know because you haven't been inspecting them, making sure that the standards are being met. You don't know that what their capabilities are. So you get into these intense scenarios and it's like, well, what do I do? I don't know what's going on because, they haven't been doing that task along the way. And with that brings me to another question I just thought of, which is, do you think that experience is required to be a teacher and or a leader?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you have to have experience in whatever task you're doing in order to be a leader because people aren't going to follow you if you don't know what the hell you're doing, right? If you're
Hmm.
making stuff up as you go, we've all been to classes, we've been around officers that talk a big game, but then when shit hits the fan, they're nowhere to be found because they've really never had that experience. They just pretend like they do. So I think you have to have that experience in order to lead people. You can't lead people to where you haven't ever been yourself.
Dude, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, you have to be able to teach from that experience in order to make people better. Because come along with experience comes your mistakes that you've made and the changes that you've made to get there.
Do you did you find like so like for example on your team, right? On your guys' SWAT team, uh, is the leadership broken down by rank? Because I know you guys are full time. Do you guys have like, hey, your commander is a captain and your team leaders are sergeants, or how do you guys break up like the task org for leadership, and how do you determine who's in that position?
So yeah, our team leaders are all sergeants, and then our team lieutenant is our team commander.
Okay.
So when we go out to calls, the team leaders, the sergeants, kind of run the scene. The team commander, the lieutenant, just kind of sits back and just kind of big picture, making sure that everything's running smooth. The best leaders that I had of rank in those positions were the ones that kind of sat back and let their people do the job. And even our team leaders, the best team leaders I ever had, would look to the newer guys on the team and let them make decisions. Hey, what do you think on this? Instead of just saying, hey, we're going to do this every time. Because at the same time, now you are empowering your people to make decisions. And even though it may not have been the way that I did it, it's still going to work and we can do it that way. And that empowers people to gain that experience on their own as well.
Dude, that's awesome. It reminds when I learned a lot of like cool like one-liners going down to Darcy so many times, and I could just talk to those guys for so long because he had so much wisdom.
Yeah.
And one of the
Lots of
things he
experience.
said, dude, yeah,
Mhm.
lots of experience down there. It's a humbling environment. I'm sure like any of the classes that you teach, like when you go down there or even you go to teach down there, that room is filled with guys who have done and seen a lot. So just being amongst people like that sets the tone for we know if what you're coming out of your mouth is bullshit or not because
Yeah.
we've had the experience to call it. And so one thing that he talks about in regards to leadership is he breaks it down very simply and just says your job is to inspire to aspire. And I love
Yes.
it. It's simple. And it reminded me of that off of what you said, where the guy sits back and he's like, hey, what do you think? What do you think we should do? That's such a valuable lesson for a new guy who's eager, who
Hmm.
is like chomping at the bit to get after it. And the boss is like, hey, man, what do you think? And you're like, oh, shit. Like he values my opinion. So if we're going to like classify that as something, I would say that like that's saying that good leaders that we've found are humble and show humility as like, I don't know everything. Like, hey, maybe you got a good idea, man. Like, yeah, run with it. And I think that's huge. And I don't see that. I saw it more in the military than I did in law enforcement. And I didn't see it as much in law enforcement. It was usually like my way or the highway. Very few guys, at least in the patrol setting. Was that same for you?
For sure.
Yeah.
Why would you follow somebody that has a giant ego, right?
Yeah.
That it's my way or the highway. Like you have to be humble. You have to be willing to let you have to be willing to let people make their own decisions. You have to let people make mistakes. You have to be willing to, when you make a mistake, let people call you out too, right? And
Yeah.
realize that. And when I think about it in the breachers world, whenever guys are coming to me and say, "Hey, I want to build this charge. Is it reasonable?" Right? And as a leader, I guide them instead of saying, "Hey, you have to build this charge for this door." Well, there's 15 different ways to build that charge for that door. What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What's reasonable? And I think good leaders look at their people and say, "Hey, what is reasonable in this circumstance? It may not be the way that I want it, but I'm humble enough to say, hey, let's try it your way and see what happens."
Dude, yeah, that's dude, there's so much that like we could go into with this because I'm like I said, I'm super passionate about it, and I there's a lot to unpack. But I would say what we're let's see if we can try and dive into like uh, what I guess like so staying solutions based, like right. So we kind of laid out like framework as far as like what is this thing leadership? What are some good qualities of leaders that we've worked with? And like, so what would be the next steps? Like, how would you, what advice would you give to new guys or anybody in general, whether they're in a position or not, to affect or inspire others in a way that is best for whatever the mission is? Let's say the police work, for example. What would be some suggestions off the top of your head?
Well, I think just going back to all the things we already said, be humble, be uh, set a high standard for yourself that people
Mhm.
can also try to achieve and also follow. Uh, Go gain that experience so that you know what to do in any situation. And I don't know, this just popped into my head. I remember many, many times where I would show up to a call and let's say there's a barricade situation that patrol was dealing with. And the way our team worked when we didn't have anything going on, which wasn't very often, but we would go hit the street, go listen to hot calls, go try to find stuff to get into, go drum up our own stuff. Uh, but many times we'd be driving around, hear a hot call come out, I'd show up and on a barricade or whatever, they'd have a team set up. And as soon as I would show up, the sergeant would look at me and say, "This is yours." Or the lieutenant would say,
Mm.
Can you run this?" Why? It was just because I had the experience, not because I had the rank, but because I had the experience. And they also had the trust in me because they knew who I was. They knew the type of person I was to say, "Hey, you handle this. I'm going to go handle the admin stuff. I'm going to handle crowd control." And I think also, and that goes back to another thing of a good leader is knowing your capabilities. So
Yeah.
those leaders, those sergeants, those lieutenants understood what their role was, and they're like, "Hey, I can either tell Gissel, hey, we're going to do this, or I can empower him to. I trust him. I know that he can do it. Let him do it." I think that's part of a good leader as well as knowing what you are capable of and what you're not capable of, and willing to not have an ego to say just because I'm in a leadership position, I have to do this, but to say, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I don't know what's going on right here, and putting people in positions that do have that experience to do better.
One thing that you said that I actually really liked was, like you showed up to the scene and the supervisor there is like, "Hey, man, you're the dude. Take over." I think one thing for folks to realize too is both of those actions are good leadership. That the
Mhm.
boss that showed up, who's humble enough to be like, "Hey, Gissel knows more than me about. He has more experience in this. I'm going to let him run with it." That action that he did is good, is being a good leader, and the action of you showing up and being receiving and being like, "Yeah, I got this, boss," is
Mhm.
also good leadership. So it's not like I think folks can kind of get confused in thinking that it is finite in one person, but it's so fluid, and it can come and go, and you can get up to a problem, and you're like, "Oh shit, like this is I need a sniper right now." Like you're gonna
Mhm.
go to the sniper TL and be like, "Yo, this is what we got. Like this is your show." You know what I mean? Like that passing on of that humility and passing on of like, "Hey, this is your lane. It's not my lane," is huge. And I think that oftentimes gets overlooked. Like that boss that says that uh, is also deserving of credit for, because and on the contrary, like I've had times where, because we were regional, so we weren't full time. So it was a mess because you got guys responding from all over the place and linking up and this and that. So sometimes you'd have a barricade at an agency and one SWAT guy's there. And we had one where one brand new dude who's been on for a year, who's full of piss and vinegar, high performer, and he shows up to the call for at that agency, and they're like, same thing. They're like, "Hey, dude, you're in charge," and he's like, I've I've been here for an year, but like, yeah, hold it down until the guys get
Mm.
here, and it's a lot. But when you think about it, like it's true considering the call volume was much lower for us with that. But that guy in that circumstance had more experience with that than the other people there. So it's all relative too, right? So you don't have to be like a CAG guy to show up and be the number one. Like you just need to have the humility and the experience amongst your peers to be the person that they look up to and inspire or aspire to be. So yeah, that
Yeah,
was
for
just one
sure.
example I thought of with that. It's like it's crazy to hear the different like experiences throughout the on the other side of the country, how they're still so similar.
Yeah, I mean it's all the same stuff. It's all police work. It's all human beings. It doesn't matter whether it's law enforcement or the corporate world. It's the same thing. If you're going to show up and have more experience than somebody else, let that person take the lead in that specific thing. I know a lot of the comments that we've gotten in the past when we've done these things is about culture. How do you think that being a leader without rank, how can that influence the culture in your squad, in your unit, in your department in general? And how can you develop that leadership at the ground level to start making the changes within an agency?
That's a good one. And the first thing that comes to mind is I think it all starts with the individual, and I think where it starts is be the person that you want to show up for your backup. So like my coach gives a really good analogy. He's great, better at analogies than me, so I'll do my best. He says, imagine you're in the fight for your life. You're on the ground. You're getting the shit beat out of you. You're like in and out of consciousness. Everything's fuzzy. You're like, man, this is it. I got nothing left. And you've called for backup, and you look up, and you see a squad pull up, and you see someone step out, and you're like, thank God, someone's here to help me. And the person that steps out of the car is you. Are you happy? Are you sad? And if you're sad, and you take a look in the mirror, and you're like, I don't want me to show up. Like that's a good first step of being like, all right, now what do I need to do to be that person? And I think if we're to root that back, like what are those things? Like those are the things we kind of talked about before and other ones, which is like the skills. Like what are the skills that are required of you? And can you do them proficiently? And if you can, other people will now look up to you and depend on you. And you could be the person that they want there or they are happy that shows up as your backup. And just starting there is such a huge step in that right direction because now by doing that, you're showing everybody else like, hey, they ask me for help or they rely on me because I'm capable and because I'm dependable. And that can spread. And if you're not like a sergeant, but you're just a patrol guy and you're trying to change that culture, I think it starts with the individual becoming proficient and just being good at your job. I think you said that in the very beginning, just being competent.
How do you think you can take guys and you be that person, but then you raise the crew around you to also be that person?
Man, that's tough. I think this is where leadership becomes tough, right? Because when we're raising people up, the one thing that I found is the easiest one of the biggest factors in it is like a common goal, right? So if we have a common goal, like then it's easier to because now and you know what you're raising people up to do. Like if you're on a
Mhm.
SWAT team, you have a mission essential task list that you need to be good at these things. How do I bring a new guy up? All right, he's got to know these things because this is encompassing of a SWAT team. The same thing with patrol, we'll say. And if you're trying to bring that group up, I think what if you have the skills, you have some experience relative to your peers, you have the humility to know what you're good at and what you're not. You're working on the things you're not good at, and you're setting the example by being the guy others depend on, and you're now trying to rope in others. I think those actions have bought trust in your partners. And once you've established the trust, now you're like, all right, guys, our common goal, like, hey, we're on the squad tonight. Let's go see how many. Let's go see if we could pinch this dealer or grab this warrant and go serve this warrant and grab this guy or do whatever, right? So you're getting your common goal, which is a task, and now you're going out and executing that task at a small unit level, or you are formulating plans. You're getting buy-in from other folks, and you're going in and executing whatever it is you're trying to do. I think that's a very easy first step for guys is like we said a while ago, which is like, what's in your span of influence and control? Like, you can't control the schedule or days off, right? But you can control what you do on shift outside of your calls for service, right? Or even on your calls for service. Like, hey, this hot domestic came in, and on the way you call up your buddy, like, yo, hey, meet me three houses down over here. We're gonna go through this, and this. You guys come up and you do your thing. Like that action in and of itself, I think is a solid step. And once guys start seeing success with that, like you'll have failures, you'll have successes, but they see success and it starts to trend. Now they're bought in. So now you've inspired them to aspire, and now they can carry the torch and continue that. And then new guys are going to come in, and then rinse, lather, repeat.
Yeah, for sure. Once you start teaching people how to hold themselves accountable and how to make themselves better, they're going to start bringing people along with them and start making that change. And now you, instead of get just you, now you have two or three people, and now they have brought two or three people on with them, and that's how you start to build that change and build that culture. And it may just be your squad, and it may
Hmm.
just be so. I think about it this way. So pretty big agency. We have five different districts all over the city. And there are certain districts that are known for all the hard chargers go to this one. All the
Hmm.
guys that are retired on duty go to this one. The crime's the same. There's still
Hmm.
criminals everywhere, but you have different hard chargers that are trying to push in certain areas. So where do the people that come out of the academy that want to get better gravitate to? They gravitate towards those same districts. And so each individual district has their own culture. How do you spread that to the other ones? And I think that's where it becomes tricky is you
Hmm.
get certain groups that always want to stay together and culture can shift. If you get a bunch of lazy dudes in one area, guess what? The culture is going to be lazy in that area. People are going to gravitate towards where they want to go.
Yeah, I think like if we break it up into tiers in like a task org type of manner, I think like you have your small unit leaders, right? You have your guys on the squad that are doing the thing, and they have their, however many group of guys they work with there all the time. And then above that level you have like whoever's in charge of that sector, right? And that area. That's another leadership level. And then you have, the top dogs that are in charge of everything. And I mean, we see this a lot. Like you'll have a good squad of guys at a little district, but then a guy up at the top of that district that doesn't care.
Hmm.
And this is where leadership becomes difficult because then here begs the question, right? Say you're the guy who's in charge of that district and you're like, man, I got a solid squad of guys, but District 3 over there is full of trash and there's the same crime. So here comes the hard part. Do I keep the guys together that work together? Or do I take the guys that I know are squared away and start planting them in the spots to affect change at the other places? And I've seen that be good and bad. I've seen it
Hmm.
work out good, and I've also seen it where the individual looks at it like, why is he doing this to me? This is messed up. Like we're squared away. I didn't do anything wrong. Now I got to go work over here. But so what are your thoughts on that? Because I think like in my head, like with the scenario that you said, the first thing that comes to mind is like take the dudes who can inspire and put them and plant them in the spots where they can have the ability to affect change. But then you're that guy, and if you take that, how do you approach that? I guess you would say.
I think that's a tough one because you start taking guys away from where they feel comfortable at, then they have a hard time trying to change that culture. I think if you tell the guys, hey, you guys are killing it, I want you to go kill it somewhere else. I want you to I want you to have a project. You give them a task. Hey,
Yes.
there are some good guys over here that just don't have direction. I want to move you over to this area and I want you to start affecting the change because I trust you and I know that you can do that and you start to inspire other people. And so That way, they can now start going into those different areas and now start bringing other people up with them.
Dude, that is huge, and I guess you would say that's the why. Like I hear a lot of I don't know. I guess you could say old timers. They're like, oh, this new generation. They always ask questions and want to. And I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I look at it as
Hmm.
good. But really, what guys want from their bosses is they want to just know one that you care about them, you have their back, you're going to hold them to a standard, but also that when you are put in a position of leadership, that like you trust your people and your people trust you. And by like doing that approach, you accomplish the same task, right? But you approach it with humility, and you're like, and this is the same method in which we like will correct students when teaching. So that's why I think it's synonymous with teaching, which is validate, correct, validate, right? So it's like you guys are killing it. Like I really, and you can have this conversation because you trust them and they trust you. Hey, dude, you guys are crushing it. I need your help. These are the issues that we're having in other areas. Can you give me like 3 months and go see if you can help these folks out over there and see if we can make some change? And if not, hey, I'm going to pull you back over to this sector, but we're going to see if this works to try and get some progress over there. I know I can count on you guys. You guys are doing great. Like, what do you think? And you throw the question back on them, like, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. This is my plan because I trust you. What are your thoughts? Right? Because they might even have some insight is not relevant or not known to that person. Like, well, actually, these are some of the things that they're battling that aren't known. It's like, oh, okay. Well, now maybe that changes my plan, or maybe that reinforces it. Like, oh, that's good to know. Is that something you can handle? Right? And if that's the right person for the job, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, give me whatever you got. I think that explanation and that setting an expectation of a task and giving them a mission is huge, because now they're going over there with a sense of purpose and
Hmm.
not like a, oh man, I'm getting punished. But
Yeah,
because usually the conversation is like, hey, Forrester, District 2. And you're like, what? Like, why am I going over there? And that's it. That's the end of it. And it could kill morale.
for sure. Yeah, when guys don't have a task and they think they're getting punished, then they're not going to want to do it anyway. But if you
Mhm.
say, "Hey, this is my goal, and I'm empowering you to go do this because I trust you," they'll have more motivation to actually go and get that done.
Even if
And I
you
think
break down, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
go no, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, like, the definition of a mission is a task and a purpose. So you don't have mission without one of those two things. And the task being whatever it is you need to accomplish, but the purpose is why we need to accomplish it. And not providing the purpose when you're giving direction as a leadership or even teaching, it's the same thing. Like if I'm teaching you something, I'm not telling you why you need to know this or why and how it applies. Like that instruction is going to fall on deaf ears and it's not going to resonate. So same thing I think here is, you give that mission statement, which is task. Here's your task, and this is why. And it reinforces your task. It is very important.
Yeah, and I think kind of going back to what we talked about before, you got when you are have that when you do have that task, or when you are just a leader on your own trying to bring people up with you, you're going to see the flaws that people have, and you're going to say, hey, I want to help you fix these things, and take the time to take them aside. If you have guys in your squad that suck at shooting, hey, yes, it's going to take some extra time, but hey, let's go to the range tomorrow. And then you start getting a group of guys together, and now these two or three guys start bringing more people with them. That's how you start to change the culture. When everybody is willing to push each other to get better, things going to change. Everything's going to, whether it's DT, whether it is firearms or whatever. I don't know. It's almost like when people start to have competition amongst each other to get better, it's going to bring everybody else up with them.
Yeah, it's what was cool to see is when we used to do like a regional in-service training, because our area has a lot of small departments, right? So we would do a regional training with you get like 500 cops a year in waves through this in-service training. And when we started to do a newer firearms program where it's more competitive style shooting and stuff like that, the first thing that we thought of was like, oh man, dude, the old timers are going to hate this. They're going to not want to do it. It's going to be like dragging them through it. And when we started to do it and we started to implement those mini competitions into those trainings, those guys loved it.
Mhm.
because now they feel like, instead of saying like, oh, these guys can't hang, they're washed up, right? It's like, no, like I want to be like, that individual motivation from them is like, I got to show these young guys that like I could still hang, and it makes them feel included in the group, into the tribe, and not ostracizing. And I think that's another thing about leadership that's, uh, can make or break somebody, is do you ostracize people, or do you do your best to try and bring everybody up within your control? Because one thing I noticed, as far as like, I guess you could say toxic leadership, is the second you start bad mouthing others, regardless of position, it starts to ruin your credibility, because that bad mouthing and that talking could be served doing good things, but you take the time to do negative things, and it can start to tarnish and ruin your reputation. Is really important. Did you find that the same for your guys as well?
For sure. If you get if you get guys that are screaming, yelling, "Hey, you suck," but then not doing anything about it to fix it, yeah, it just pisses everybody off, and they don't want to come back. They don't want to compete. They don't want to have the fun that they actually could have. But you know how it goes. Anytime you have some sort of competition, everybody's talking shit,
Yeah,
and
and
that's a
that's
good
good.
thing. That's
That's good.
good.
Yeah.
But a good leader is going to see the one that's struggling and say, "Hey, now that we're done, this is where I see you were struggling. Let's go fix this. Let's spend some extra time to go do this." And then naturally that will start to make everybody around them a little bit better.
Yeah, dude, because that's the goal, right? I remember having conversations with people, and when we were, the group of us that were doing the firearms and stuff, they're like, "Oh, we need more guys like you." And my buddy says, "Well, no, no, you have the people. We want to make you, like, the goal is to make everybody better. You don't want a department with three guys on it that are rock solid. Why don't you just make, like, it's perfectly capable to make these better?" And I think it brings us full circle, as far as, well, how do you lead without rank? Well, you teach. Well, how do you
Hmm.
teach? Become proficient at the skills that are required, and then you gain the experience through doing the job, being good at your job, and by doing that, people can count on you. You have a humility, and now you inspire others to aspire to be like you, and boom, like, that's your change. You've changed your circle, and now your circle's changed. The boss is going to be like, dude, my crew is locked on. I don't need
Hmm.
to worry about shit. So when they hear that hot call come over the radio, they're showing up, and they're at the command post, and they're like, let me know what you guys need. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. The only way you build that is through doing those things. And if you don't, you're going to have the boss show up and be like, oh shit, like, I got to micromanage these guys. And they're like, why am I getting micromanaged? It's like, well, dude, you're not good at your job. So, like, what choice does he have now? You can't make a game time decision and be like, all right, we're on a barricade. I'm going to teach you guys some CQB real quick. It's like,
Yeah.
it's too late, dude.
Let's go in the parking lot real quick and do some movements. It's not going to work out.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think too, it comes back to, if you're a leader, you're going to make yourself available for your guys. I'm going to spend the extra time with them. And we do this all the time now that I'm out at the training unit with young guys that are hungry, that want to get better. Come to us when you want training. Tell us what you want, and we'll make it happen. We may not be able to do it Tuesday, but I have availability for a few hours on Thursday. Let's make this happen and be available to teach them how to become better. If I say I don't have any time, I'm too busy, like, I'll come in early, I'll stay late, I'll do whatever I have to do to make, if you are willing to become better, I'm going to make you better. And I want to spend the time working with the people that want to get better, because there's plenty of people in any agency that don't want to do shit. They want to sit back and not do anything. But if you start to find those ones that want to push and make yourself available for them, they will make the time for themselves to get better. And then at the same time, now start, once they get better, start bringing everybody else up with them, bringing them to the extra training that they're doing and want to get better. And I just had a conversation with a young kid. I have a class. My advanced patrol tactics course coming up here pretty soon. And I had a young kid come up to me, goes, "Hey, yeah, there's a bunch of dudes on my squad that said, why would I go to that? Because they're teaching us the same thing in the quarterly trainings."
Mm.
And he's like, "Well, yeah. but they only have a couple hours to teach it in quarterly training. How are you going to get better? They're going to spend 3 days and put us through this rep after rep after rep, and that's how you get better. I don't want those other ones coming to my class. I want
Yeah.
the one kid that's like, hey, I want the extra reps. I'm going to put in the extra effort to get better. And once his squad starts seeing how much better he got, then they're going to also want to figure out what he did to get a little bit better.
It sounds like what you're saying is that like another good leadership quality is being like a servant leader, realizing that it is me as a leader. You are telling essentially without saying it, you're telling the people that are you're inspiring, like, what can I do to facilitate your success? Right? It is not go out and do my will. It is, hey, I'm here to give you all the resources that you need, whether it's knowledge, experience, anything like that, to go do whatever mission X is. And that is huge because I think what that does for the people on the other end of that is it shows that they genuinely care about their well-being and their ability to succeed, right? And it also shows them like, hey, I trust you because you're not going through micromanaging everything that they're
Hmm.
doing. Being a servant leader is huge, and with that too, one thing you brought up that I wanted to hit on as well, which was the other when you mentioned like you had that young kid who was like eager, and it sounded like his peers were kind of like putting him down for going to the training. It is realizing that you can't save everybody,
Hmm.
and there has to be a line in the sand for someone who's trying to pursue this, whether they're being an unofficial leader or they're already in a leadership role. Like you can't or bring a horse. You could bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So be careful for the folks listening. Like be careful spending too much time on the people that are unwilling to want to do it, because there's a difference between they don't know and they need to learn and they don't want to, because you can't make them want to. But if they want to, you could teach them anything.
Yeah.
And it might just be the wrong time for that person to be influenced, and it might just need a little bit more here. All their buddies start going and they're finally like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna go. uh, that might be the straw, but I've experienced that too many times where I tried to fix everything, and by the time I spent trying to fix everything, it was like I've neglected all the people that truly wanted to do it. It's like shit, you know dip fire, like that wasn't good.
Yeah, it goes directly back to what Chris Palmer talked about when he was on here with us. Like,
Yeah.
do I want to spend the time teaching that lowest common denominator that doesn't want to be there? Why am I focusing all of my effort on that when I could be teaching some other guys at a higher level that want to get better? It keeps me from getting frustrated from dealing with the guy that doesn't want to be there and focusing all my time on that. And now I actually get to focus on the guys that want to be there. And a good example of that was recently at one of our quarterly trainings. We were putting on some training, and there was a guy who did not. It was very obvious. And when you have department wide training, right, you get a mix of everybody. You get some of the young kids, you get some of the old kids. It all for us, it just who signed up for the training that day. And this guy had been around for a long, long time, had never wanted to do anything in his career besides be lazy and collect a check. And and that's fine. That's what he wanted to do. But he shows up to the training and his bad attitude was contagious. Him not wanting to be there and him hawing around was not only frustrating me, but frustrating the other people that were there. So we had like 6 or 7 scenarios that we wanted to get done. After the second scenario, I said, hey, that's all the training that we have for the day. So if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. But if anybody here wants to stay and get better, I'm going to be inside the house and we're going to do some more movements if anybody wants to stay. If you want to leave, then get out. So I go inside the house and everybody followed me except for that one guy. He left, and I'm like, all right, you guys ready to train? Like, yes, thank you for getting rid of that guy because that one changed the attitude, and the rest of the training was phenomenal. Everybody wanted to be there, everybody wanted to get better. So, just as much as a good attitude and a good leader without rank is contagious, it's just as contagious on the other way around. And you have to be able to be willing to separate yourself from those people that don't want to be there, focus on the people that want to be there, and hang out with the people that want to be there. And that's how you're going to change your circle of influence by focusing on the ones that want to be there.
Let me ask you this, going off of that exact example, for the folks that might be like at the smaller unit level, like they're trying to affect change amongst their squad, right? And they're trying to get
Hmm.
their folks on the same page. And you have one of those individuals, but they're a peer, right? And in that instructor role, there's a little bit of a hierarchy as far as like things that you can influence people to do or force people to do, even, right? But at that peer level, how do you deal with that when you have, that one cancerous person that is bringing down the morale of the group in a peer-to-peer setting? What's one of the ways that you've managed that?
Call them out on their shit.
Yeah, that
Like,
was the exact thing that I was going to say too.
okay,
Yeah,
what is your deal? Like,
yeah,
and do it, try to do it not in front of the group, right?
yeah,
Pull that person aside, say, what is your problem? Why don't you want to be here? Why are you dragging the rest of us down? Because we want to get better. If you want to get better, then quit hanging out with us.
yeah,
You're dragging the rest of us down. And then see what they say, see what their attitude is, and maybe they will separate themselves from that group and kind of keep doing their own thing. Perfect. The rest of us are going to move in a different direction. Because a lot of times, especially like at a patrol-based level, you're stuck with the guys you have on your squad. But I've been on squads when I worked patrol where we had some people that didn't want to do shit, and then other people that we wanted to go hunt all night long and catch bad guys. Cool. They would get mad at us for going out and getting into stuff because now they have to come, but I didn't care. I'm still going to go out and get into it. And guess what? We started getting more and more people that wanted to actually go do the job, and they started separating themselves from the one or two guys that didn't want to be part of it.
100%. Yeah, and that's another like leadership quality I think is really good, which is being like honest.
Mm.
And it's easy to fall into the trap of, oh, I don't like Jim, and I'm only going to say that I don't like Jim when Jim's not around,
No.
right? And doing that is creating a toxic environment because now all your buddies know you don't like Jim, but Jim doesn't know you don't like Jim. And I think the the approach that you said it is the best, whereas you pull that person aside, remove them from the group, and say, "Hey, man, like, what's going on? This is what we're trying to do. Why are you doing this, first of all?" And then hear them out, and but addressing it directly with that person is the way. And the way to not do that is, let's talk about Jim when he's not here, because now you're creating an environment that you don't like. Because if somebody did that to you or your boss did that to you, you'd be bitching about that. So like we can't facilitate that at the small level. And it's easy to fall into that trap, man. Sometimes guys can easily fall into it. But I think it's important to make sure that we don't do that.
I think that, and I know my agency isn't unique in this because I travel in the country. I know it's the same way everywhere. Cops are worse than high school girls.
Dude.
Like
Yeah.
talking crap behind people's back. Like, hey, you want to call somebody out? If you're having an issue with somebody, go tell them to their face. Don't go talk to them behind their back. Don't tell Jim and then tell John and then he tells Joe and then Joe now goes tells the other guy that everybody's talking shit about him. No, handle it right now. Be a man. Deal with it right now because the more that shit happens, the more you're going to cause more cancer within your squad, within your unit.
Yeah. And and then once that cancer's there, man, and it spreads, it's so hard to get rid of because now you
Hmm.
have a big group. And addressing it with that dude is the best way. And you could even go as far to say, like, you pull that dude aside and you're like, yo, why are you doing this? What's important to you at work? And it might be, dude, I just want to get out of here at 3 o'clock. I'm not trying to stay late. It's like, all right, we're gonna go get some drug arrests. If you just want to handle putting this shit into evidence, are you cool with that? Because you're gonna get out on time. Oh, hell yeah. So you can pull people back in by
Hmm.
appealing to what their mission is. Even if you don't agree with their mission, they're now included. And that might be the thing that gets them to buy in down the road. But now hey, man, Jim said he's going to do all the evidence for us. And it's like, all right, party on. Let's go get a lot of shit. So he's got to put it in evidence or
There
something
you
like
go.
that. Hey, sit on the car while we go do this or whatever the case is. Um, but yeah, I think, and that's the same method that we talked about as far as giving a task and purpose and a mission. Like you're telling that guy you don't agree with his behavior. He's bringing down the group. But you're also giving him a mission, like, hey, what's important to you? And if he doesn't want to have that conversation, yeah, cut the ties. Don't waste your time. But if he's like, this is what I care about. I don't agree. I don't want to get involved with that with you guys. It's like, all right, well, what about this? would you support us in this? Yeah, I got you. Okay, now we're good, and you could go about it. But yeah, dude, that's a really good example.
Giving somebody a task. Do
Yeah.
this. This is what you want to do. Cool. Then go handle this. And I think every squad, every unit, every team is the same way. There's certain people that are good at certain things and certain people that are not as good. And there's certain people that want to do certain things and there's certain people that don't want to do it. A good leader, regardless of rank, is going to understand everybody's role
Mhm.
and then help everybody in that one role or two roles, whatever it is, get a little bit better. Encourage them to get a little bit better. So that guy that wants to go home on time, cool. I'm going to give you the task that's going to help you get better at that task without alienating them from everybody else. And then now you get buy-in from that one guy, and it keeps cohesion amongst your squad, amongst your unit, without continuing to have that cancer continue to grow.
And even second, third order effect to that is like, yeah, you put Jim on the evidence duty, right? And then he becomes a rock star evidence dude. And then you get a new guy who's got to do evidence, and you're like, hey, I know this dude Jim. He's really good at evidence. Go talk. Jim will help you out. And now Jim's still doing evidence, so he likes it for the shift. And the new guy goes over there. Now you have Jim, who was a cancer, who's now
Mhm.
leading somebody by teaching them how to do the thing that he said he wanted to get good at because he wants to get out at 3. And it's like now you could start to bring it full circle. But yeah, dude, that's this is good. I could like go on for days about this shit.
Like my buddy Rob from That Ain't Bad just said, kangaroo court. Yeah, that solves lots of problems. I'm always down. I'm always down with that. It's always
Yeah,
gonna influence
it's
people
always an
one way or
option,
another.
man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's always an option. Oh man, the one thing I was going to ask you too, because like, what are some, if you were up and coming, if you were to go back 20 years and be Jamie, brand new dude at Mesa, what would be some of the resources that you would recommend to yourself as far as like where to look, things to read, stuff to learn about, as far as either whether it be leadership or let's say like leadership centric stuff. Like, what kind of stuff would you recommend to yourself going back?
I think I wish that I would have done a better job of finding those true leaders. And there was a couple that were like my mentors growing up on the department and on the team and stuff, but learning more from them, picking their
Mm.
brain more, asking more questions, and spending more time with them because I know that they would have taken the time to make me that much better had I. Because a lot of times as a new guy, you sit back and you're like, well, I don't want to bother this guy or they have so much going on. When in reality, those are the guys that you want to pick their brain and you want to study and learn from them instead of being like, oh, they know too much. You hold them to a higher standard. You're just this guy down here. I wish that I would have spent more time picking their brain and learning from them and giving them the opportunity to take me under their wing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because they might not even know that you're interested in learning those things if you never take that step and be like, I'm willing to learn. Yeah, that's a good one. Do you have
Yep.
any like were you big on like any books and stuff like that, or like articles and or people that are like authors that you found that are helpful as far as putting things in perspective with it?
No, I didn't. I read more now than I did back then, but yeah, I
Yeah.
probably wish that I would have been more like you and studied books and stuff more than I
Do they
did.
count
So
if they're audiobooks? Because I
that's
don't read
all that
good.
I know how to read. Yeah, yeah. Words
Um,
get jumbled. What about you? What are some things that you would go back?
I think one of the things that was most helpful for me that I found like towards, I would say later in the years, which was I did read a lot or listen to a lot of books, and it wasn't mainly for like the lessons that they're teaching, but the examples that they're giving and like how people handled certain situations. And there's always a bunch that come to mind. And there's this one book called Leadership and Training for the Fight. I don't know if you've ever heard it by
Hmm.
Paul Howe. It's an older book,
Yep, I have
but
read
it's
that
it's
one.
it's really good.
Hmm.
It's
Really
really
good.
long, and one of the things he talks about is I'm pretty sure it's this book, but he had guys that were doing like a simultaneous assault on a building or something like that, and they got a building wrong, and they ended up in a blue on blue incident where the two soldiers were shooting at each other, and they find it out in the debrief. So after the mission, there was a blue on blue incident. Nobody got killed, and one of the things, the way that he handles it is he takes the dude who fired at the friendly forces and he negatively counsels him for ineffective lethal force. Like, yeah, you were wrong in that you did this blue you didn't acquire proper PID. You're getting written up or whatever for that, but you also didn't even do it well. So like you're holding, and I thought it was a very interesting approach to how you handle a situation that is a terrible one to be in, and
Mhm.
be able to paint that picture for the person on the other end of it's like that's the stuff in leadership that no one likes to do is hold people accountable. But it's so important because that dude is now held accountable on two different fronts. Like, yeah, you made a bad PID call and you also didn't even shoot well. So now you're remediating on two of these things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and
and
I think too,
yeah,
you can do that not at because obviously Paul had rank in that situation,
yeah,
but
true.
as peers, pull your guys aside and say, "Hey,
Oh,
you screwed this up. Let's fix this," so it
mhm.
doesn't have to go above them, but handle it on your own without having to go up the chain as well too is important.
Yeah, and that that's a big, huge thing in leadership or even mission planning in general is the debrief is super important. So even if you get your guys together and you go do, you serve a warrant or you go do something, it's really important to pull everyone back in at the end. Like that's the leader that's inspiring folks. Like he's got to be the one to like pull dudes in and be like, "Hey, how'd you guys think it went? What happened? What'd you do well? What should we work on for the next time?" And
Mm.
now you're developing lists of all right, what do we need to work on? What are we doing well? And now you're focusing your efforts on, hey, we got to get better at these things. Those are the things we're going to get better at. And by doing that, what you're also doing is what we used to do at the end is we would call it like a hot wash, and you'd go around the room and people, if they had any concerns, that the saying was, if you're not going to say it in front of the group, then you can't say it in the parking lot.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so if you have an issue with something that happened or something somebody did, you can stand up and be like, "Hey, Jim, I don't like how you did that." And it's, there's no rank. And as long as everyone's respectful, you're like, "I don't like how you did that. You negated to consider this, this, and this." And then Jim has the opportunity to either be like, "Yeah, dude, my bad," or stand up and be like, "Well, actually, from my perspective, this is what I did because I couldn't leave this spot because of X, Y, and Z." And
Mm.
then you're like, "Oh shit, like I made a judgment off of Jim based off my perception. I didn't see what he was seeing. He made a choice that I wasn't aware of. That makes sense now." And then it adds clarity. And then and then you walk out of that room and you can't, be bad mouthing people outside of there. And then that cohesion we found was like really good as far as building camaraderie amongst that group, whether it's a big team or just a small squad, was super important because those conversations often never happen.
Yeah, I think that's if you want your team to have cohesion, you have to be willing to have those conversations. You have to be willing to debrief every scenario, the good and the bad, and learn from the mistakes and learn from what you did right as well. I think too often law enforcement debriefs that I've been to, everybody's, oh, we did great, high five, and don't really talk
Hmm.
about the mistakes. There's
Yeah.
mistakes you make in pretty much every call. Let's learn from those. Let's not make those mistakes again. Yes, everything went well most of the time because we got lucky. How do we not get lucky next time and do it right? And when you have those frank conversations amongst your team, when you have the leadership that's willing to not have rank in that room, right? And I think that's a big part of it too, is having an open conversation amongst the team where the leaders say, "Hey, there's no rank in this room right now. Let's have a discussion." And the youngest guy on the team can call out the most senior guy for
Hmm.
mistakes that he made and have an understanding. And it could come back to just like you said, "Hey, I saw this. Well, I did this because of this. Oh, that makes more sense." Right? And then you're not leaving that room pissed off because you all have an understanding before you leave.
Yeah, and that just builds trust. And
Yeah.
another one that comes to the top of my head is there's another book called it's my favorite book, but it's Leadership in the Shadows by Kyle Lamb. And one, he writes like a very simple, so it's easy
Mhm.
to understand for people like me. But one of the stories that he gives in that book, he's not naming names, so he's just saying like people's title, and he's talking about how they're running through doing like hostage scenarios, like CQB stuff. And he says there's a young soldier who's he's excelled at everything. He's doing very well. He's about to make selection. He's going through these runs in the house, and they're doing so well that the guy in charge is like, I'm going to throw him a curveball. And the commander, whoever was in charge, he says he goes down, he hides in the closet as an innocent person, and they start the scenario. And that young dude who is killing it, he's going through, and they open up the closet, and he like shoots at the dude who was the commander, who's not supposed to be shot with, or whatever it was. And he says in that moment, like the young soldier thought, like, this is it, my career is over, I'm done, I'm gonna get kicked out of this team, I'm not gonna make this, blah 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 blah. And that dude who got shot, that dude pulls him aside, and he's like, counsels him, and he's like, hey man, like, this was a serious mistake that you made, blah 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 blah, why did it happen, talks to him for a little bit. And then at the end of the story, Kyle reveals, like, that soldier was me.
Hmm.
So one of the reasons he wrote it was because he's paying it forward for the chance that that guy gave him, because he saw something in him to do that. And that story really resonated with me, because think about all the things that that guy did. Had that guy not given him the opportunity to correct his behavior, right? Viking tactics, all the stuff that he did would not exist. And it's crazy to see how influential, like, getting towards wrapping this up, is like how important good leadership is, and how many things you can affect by the decisions and the way that you treat people in your organization can go. You'll probably never know the amount of things it can do well or bad.
Yeah, you have to. You'll never know. You'll never know
Never
what
know.
influence you had in a lot of circumstances. Yes, there you'll see some of the fruits of your labors a lot of times, but a lot of times you won't. And that's why it's important to show up every day to work, be that leader,
Mhm.
because regardless of whether you see it or not, you are influencing somebody else. And there's plenty of guys that I grew up with, that I learned from, that have no clue the influence that they had on me. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. Be the guy you want to be responding to that call. Be that leader as well, bringing people up. Help people become the person that you would want to mentor, or you would want to be your mentor. Be that person. Be the leader that, without rank, that's going to make people better, because that's the one that you wanted to have to follow as you were a young kid as well.
Dude, yeah, that's good. I don't know of a better way to wrap it up than than that. That should
Yeah.
go on a t-shirt.
I don't know if it made a whole lot of sense, but it kind of made sense to me.
No, dude, yeah, it's definitely impactful. It's yeah, and I'll say this one thing before we wrap up, which is, those are the positive things, like, you'll never know, but you can almost instantly see the negative effects of
For
bad
sure.
leadership too. And when guys are going through this process, one thing to consider is, this is not a quick thing that happens. Like, this whole developing, inspiring, aspiring, teaching, getting experience is years of doing the thing that nobody likes, which is consistent, disciplined behavior, which is, hey, I'm going to get good at this thing. Like, we summed everything up in an hour, but that process is going to be years. And
Hmm.
it's the same thing with the gym, right? Like, you're only going to get fit and strong if you do this, the stuff that works, and you're consistent. Consistency is the thing that's going to make you successful. Same thing here. You can't show up on a weekend and think, like, all right, I'm going to change everything on a Saturday and it's going to be great. It's just dedication, disciplined behavior over time. Don't get discouraged if you have ups and downs, because they're going to happen. And control what you can within your span of influence, and don't let the lows dictate how tomorrow's going to go. Tomorrow's a new day, and you have to attack it the same way every day, and then eventually you'll get to the change. And that's why it's hard, and I think that's why not a lot of folks do it. But I also think not a lot of folks know where to start. So I'm hoping that this discussion was at least helpful for people to maybe see, like, where they can start with it if they don't know where to go.
Love it. It's a good way to end
Yeah,
it. And just to close out for next week, when we do this next Friday, we have Scott Savage is going to be coming
nice.
on with us next Friday. So it'll be another good discussion, another good guy, and we'll have hopefully Rick back from Europe by then, and have another good discussion next week. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening, and hopefully people got something out of this thing.
Yeah, man, it was good talk. Thanks, man, and hopefully we made Dad proud.
Yeah, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully when he wakes up in the morning and watches this, he'll think we did all right.
Yeah. All right, buddy. It was good talking to you, man.
All right, see you, bud.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Later.